me turn my talk. Here we go. How he said he living life as a gringo. Where you question where you fit in every time you mingle. They say you do this with not enough that. My rapping is really bad. This life as a gringo.
Yes, hello and welcome to another episode of Life as a Gringo. I am Dramas, of course, and it's Thursday, so it means it's time for our Thursday Trends episode. I still sound a little crazy, a little nasally. I feel congested. I don't feel 100%. I apologize if I sound crazy in advance, but the show must go on, as they say in this biz, right? And man, it's not going to be a positive. I mean, there's a couple, some light at the end of the tunnel in some of the conversations. But we have to talk about the tragedy that happened in the DR in Dominican Republic at a nightclub as a rooftop collapsed during a concert. And lives were lost, still people missing, just an absolute tragedies that we're going to have to touch on. We're also going to talk about the IRS agreeing to share data with ICE and what that means for immigrants and undocumented workers, specifically undocumented immigrants. We'll also quickly, because I don't want to talk about this too much, we're going to talk about Trump's tariffs, the latest. That's been the big headline the last couple weeks. On a positive side of things, we'll talk about how Latin music is breaking records in 2024 and on. Like, it's just growing. So we'll talk about that. And also, I got to give a little shout out. Bad Bunny just dropped his Tiny Desk concert for NPR. So we'll touch on that. But first and foremost, let's start with the nonsense, the BS, in a segment we call For the People in the Back.
Say it louder for the people in the back. Say it louder for the people in the back.
What's funny is, as long as I don't talk, I'm good. The sick irony of that is I talk for a living. So bear with me. I'm going to probably be fighting off a cough the entire time that we are here during this episode. But let's first and foremost start in the Dominican Republic. This tragedy right here. The people of DR are mourning one of the deadliest tragedies in recent memory after the roof of Jet Set, an iconic nightclub in Santo Domingo, collapsed during a concert, killing at least 113 people and injuring over 250 others, according to the country's Emergency Operations Center. Rescue teams from the DR, Puerto Rico, and Israel are still searching for survivors in the rubble. Among the dead are merengue icon Rubby Pérez, former MLB players Octavio Datel and Tony Enrique Blanco Cabrera. Also confirmed deceased is Nelcy Cruz, governor of the Montecristi province and sister of seven-time MLB All-Star Nelson Cruz amongst the dead. Obviously, the island is shaken by it. People, I think in general, humanity, right? Seeing something like that happen. Now, they're saying the collapse happened just after midnight on April 8th during a highly anticipated concert by Rubby Pérez. The venue was filled with about 300 people dancing to merengue when, according to various eyewitness videos, dust began falling from the ceiling. Seconds later, the entire roof caved in. Now, according to AP News, the roof gave nearly an hour into Pérez's set. A viral video does show the collapse, and I try not to watch the videos. There are people posting videos of like someone's hand under rubble, and it's just disgusting in my opinion. To showcase that stuff, they're saying that this venue was an iconic one. It's been open since 1973. It was previously damaged in 2023 by a lightning strike and a fire. They're saying that the search for survivors is still ongoing. Authorities say it's too early to determine the cause of the collapse. There is no record of when Jet Set's last safety inspection took place. The Ministry of Public Works has not commented, and the mayor's office has not returned phone calls, according to AP News. Obviously, they're going to do a whole investigation into this, and it doesn't negate the tragedy that this is. And I was talking about this with someone yesterday, and it's just like the tragedy of it all is it's like there's nothing you can do, and it's something that could happen to any one of us in any place, right? We sort of take it for granted that the structures that we're walking into, the cities that we are living in, and the places that we are going to on a day-to-day basis, we just assume that everything is okay and everything is up to code and everything is up to par. But we've seen it time and time again. Even here in the States, there was that apartment building that collapsed in Miami that killed, so many people. And it was like, failed inspections that weren't done that should have been done, and probably people getting paid off and all these different things. And it's just scary. I guess it's a reminder of like how much of our life we're not in control of, right? And how much of a blessing every day really is, and how much of a blessing it is to come home each and every day. And we take that for granted, right? The idea that we left the house and we're able to come back home at the end of a day, is wild. And I think, even for me, this obviously hits close to home as somebody who is constantly in nightclubs, and, you just think to yourself, like, there's so much. I mean, people in their apartment building in Miami, like, they're just literally having their morning coffee and something like that happens. It's just, I don't know. I guess a lot of things go through your mind of just the fragility of life, and my heart goes out to those affected. You feel helpless in this situation as well. It almost feels empty giving condolences, in these types of situations, but just an absolute tragedy, and just makes you kind of want to hug your loved ones a little bit tighter after hearing stories like this one. Now, moving on to another story in terms of here in the States and all that's happening with ICE. The IRS has now agreed to share data with ICE. Monday, IRS signed a memorandum of understanding with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, that allows immigration officials access to taxpayer data in certain criminal cases. This agreement marks a dramatic policy shift. For decades, the IRS had a reputation of keeping their data confidential when it comes to tax data, even for undocumented immigrants. Now, many are asking, what does this mean for our communities, our safety, and our future? I'm getting this from weareme2.com. They're saying, why is this such a big deal for taxpayer info to be shared with ICE? Now, according to Axios, the IRS has agreed to share immigrants' personal tax return information with ICE when requested during criminal investigations. This includes addresses and financial details that, for many undocumented taxpayers, have long felt protected. Under the agreement, ICE must provide that the individuals in question are under criminal investigation, which they could fucking say that about anybody, or have a final order of removal. The IRS then cross-checks the records for relevant tax return data, yet the exact scope of what will be shared remains unclear. Many details in the agreement were redacted in public filings. According to the Associated Press, IRS Acting Commissioner Melanie Krause is resigning over this deal. So the person who is acting commissioner for the IRS is resigning over this deal. She's essentially resigning in protest. She's the second IRS head to step down in recent months amid concerns over government overreach and data misuse. The previous acting commissioner, Douglas O'Donnell, left in February. He did so following public outcry over Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency gaining access to taxpayer data. Now, undocumented immigrants contribute billions of dollars in taxes each year, often through using individual taxpayer identification numbers, ITINs. For years, immigrant advocates and tax professionals have worked to assure these taxpayers that their information would remain confidential. Now, the promise is in jeopardy. Quote, the IRS's decision to share confidential information with the Department of Homeland Security threatens the safety of thousands of workers while forcing them further into the shadows. That is according to Murad Awardesh of the New York Immigration Coalition, in comments that he told NPR. He also had Tom Bowman from the Center for Democracy and Technology telling the Associated Press that the agreement, quote, will discourage tax compliance among immigrant communities, weaken contributions to essential public programs and increase burdens for U.S. citizens and non-immigrant taxpayers. According to NPR, dozens of congressional Democrats sent a letter urging the IRS and DHS not to finalize the deal. They warned that it would drive undocumented taxpayers away from formal tax systems. It would also shift more of the labor force to the informal economy and potentially lower federal revenues from taxes. Okay. I mean, it's like, again, it's like the saying of you cut off your nose to spite your face here, right? So in a means to follow through with your personal agenda when it comes to migrants, you're potentially going to make the country lose revenue in terms of the taxes that these people are paying into the system. I mean, and aren't we trying to raise more money for the country? Isn't Doge supposed to be efficiency, right? Find more money, and this is money, and now you're potentially going to be losing it. And obviously they said this is for special criminal cases, whatever the case may be, but they're calling everybody a fucking criminal. There was a guy who got deported that had legal status here. I can't remember what country he got deported to, not even his own country. He had legal status here, wasn't a criminal, didn't have a criminal record, was checking in as he was supposed to, and got deported by mistake because these people are fucking idiots because their leader's a fucking idiot, right? And it's just a mass fucking, bull in a china shop mentality. And, it's like no fact-checking or no double-checking our work. It's just like, let's fucking push ahead and, we'll make mistakes along the way. It's okay. Well, it's not okay when it's people's lives being uprooted, right? And then now that gentleman who was deported, they're saying, sorry, we did this by mistake. We're admitting it, but we can't bring you back, even though you have legal status in the United States of America. And then a judge ruled that the U.S. has to bring him back, and then the Supreme Court ruled against that judge. So it's like, you idiots are, at the request of Donald Trump, just fucking blindly uprooting people's lives. And how am I supposed to have faith that you're not going to just find ways to illegally use this information to attack people who aren't even criminals? And again, in the roundabout thing, because all you care about is bottom line, potentially losing money that these people are making, right? What's their motivation to pay into the system now? You're literally putting their livelihood at risk for, if they choose to pay taxes into the system. It's just dumb shit that makes no sense whatsoever. It really is, And again, you can't have faith that ICE and our government, the current administration, are going to do the right thing, because they're just fucking morons blindly doing things without thinking about the long-term repercussions of them. And unfortunately, for them, they're fine. But their actions have real-world effects on the everyday person, on real people. Again, that guy was ripped apart from his family, deported illegally. He had legal status here, and now they're telling him, sorry, buddy, you're fucked. We can't do anything for you. Like, just crazy shit. Even after they've admitted, yeah, our bad. Awesome. Thank you. I'm sure his family that is now missing their father, and him who is detained and in a country he's not even from, I'm sure that admission of making a mistake is suitable for him and his family. Like, just crazy stuff. Not a lot of foresight happening in this administration, that's for sure. And we'll talk about that when it comes to these tariffs and what the fuck the latest is with Trump's trade war he has going on. We'll take a quick break here, though, and then we'll be right back. All right, so here's the latest. I know I was out last week as far as the Thursday Trends was concerned. Actually, we didn't drop an episode at all last week. I was deathly ill. But the chaos of Trump's tariffs had been going on. The stock market was fucking dropping. People were complaining. Rich people were losing their net worth. The dude from Barstool, Dave Portnoy, was famously online talking about how he's lost 10 to 20% of his net worth from this stuff. As Trump is blindly just hitting countries with tariffs with no real plan in place. And then now, because of public outcry, and I'm sure rich people outcry, he's decided to backtrack on his tariff plan, apparently for 90 days. He's putting a pause on them with the exception of China. So the stock market bounced back yesterday, right? So there was a historic relief rally, a steep sell-off resumed on, a historic relief rally is what they're calling it, yesterday, right? Only to then fall off once again, because today, Donald Trump, or late yesterday, Donald Trump announced that while he's putting a pause on the tariffs for many countries for 90 days, he's actually hitting China with even more tariffs. So now the Dow tumbled 2,000 points after the White House clarified higher tariffs on China. So the Dow tumbled more than 2,000 points, or 5% today, midday. And they're saying that the broader S&P 500 sank 5.9%, and the tech-heavy NASDAQ composite slid 6.9%. While investors breathed a sigh of relief yesterday as President Trump announced a 90-day pause on most quote-unquote reciprocal tariffs, he hiked the tariff rate on China to at least 145%, a level that the White House clarified today. They're saying the prospects of a trade war with China have continued to spook investors. Quote, "We expect the road ahead to be bumpy and do not anticipate a quick trip back to new heights," said Keith Lerner, chief market strategist at Truist Advisory Services. Now, the U.S. dollar index, which measures the dollar's strength against 6 foreign currencies, tumbled 1.85% on Thursday, or today, hitting its lowest level since early October. The dollar has broadly weakened this year, a sign of investors' concern about the health and stability of the U.S. economy. New data today showed that inflation in the U.S. slowed sharply in March, and while that's usually welcome news for investors, the focus on Wall Street is firmly on tariffs and the outlook for the economy going forward. Quote, Thursday's data for March, which backward-looking and doesn't tell the market much about the recent tariffs, albeit many of them on pause, are affecting consumer prices, said Skylar Winan, Chief Investment Officer at Regan Capital. Okay. A lot of investor talk here in words. Basically, shit's getting more expensive for us. And in typical Donald Trump fashion, it's funny because his supporters, like yesterday in particular, when it bounced back, they're all like, "Look at me, I'm back up fucking $8 million. We bought during the dip. Hell yeah, it was smart. Thanks, Trump. You know what you're doing." No, this is an idiot. And I don't know how else to break it down. And I'm like, a part of me is like, hey, maybe there is a grander plan. I probably don't agree with it, but maybe there's a grander plan. And then you realize, no, this asshole just does stuff without really thinking it through, affects the lives of a whole bunch of people, and then walks it back when shit hits the fan. That's literally the blueprint for Trump. Hey, let's try this dumb idea that any expert is telling us is a horrendous idea. The eye test is telling us it doesn't make sense, but let's try it, and worst case, we'll just go back. But the fucked up thing is, most people aren't multi-millionaires that can afford to lose 10 to 20% of their net worth. Most people aren't multi-millionaires that don't look at the price of the shit they're buying, so it really doesn't even matter to them that certain things are more expensive. They don't give a fuck. Right? It doesn't affect them. But the everyday person, while you're trying to figure things out on the fly because you're too fucking dumb to actually do any real research or come up with a real plan, while you're trying to figure that whole situation out, real people's lives are getting fucked up. We saw that with the ICE story that I just talked about. We saw that with, you know, what's happening here with the stock market and the cost of goods that are being pushed onto the American people, which they're already struggling. They can't take much more. And it's because this asshole has a lack of planning. And now he's having a dick measuring contest with China. And it's like, what the fuck are we doing? And they talk about, you know, this idea of like, oh, America has been being taken advantage of for decades with tariffs unfairly and all these different things. And this is the thing about Donald Trump, is his craziness has some surface level logic, right? So he can sell you on an idea because it's rooted in some surface level truth or logic. Is America too reliant on partners outside of the U.S.? Should we be trying to bring more jobs back to the U.S. and make more things here? I would say so, yeah, absolutely. That's rooted in some superficial logic. But then he just does crazy shit that has no real long-term plan and isn't well thought out, like these tariffs. Like, again, I think to me, and I'm not an economist or, you know, in holding public office, but if the plan is to use this as a means to encourage further production in the U.S. and get companies to build factories, shouldn't you first be incentivizing and have a plan of action in place with factories, with companies, with the whatever, car manufacturers, pharmaceuticals, whatever it might be? Shouldn't you have a plan in place for them to actually create these jobs and create these factories and to agree to move production back to the U.S. before you just fucking blindly start tariffing the shit out of other countries and get into a trade war with other countries? Like, to me, that's where you start. You figure out, how do we actually get the manufacturing here? Then, once you have that in place, you begin to do these other fucking things. Not beforehand. Because the way he's doing it is going to put a strain on the everyday person who is already struggling. And these people, and the irony of what they do, they gaslight the shit out of you. And they're like, only weak people will fall during a time like this. So that obviously, like, the average person's fucking ego, especially like these MAGA people, are like, well, I'm not weak, so hell yeah, let's stay strong. Meanwhile, your dumbass is paying more money for shit than you should be. But because this guy has painted it as you're weak if you fail during this time period, you're being gaslit into buying into the bullshit. And that's what these people do. And they make you forget, as he talks about, it, you know, and people around it, it might get a little bit tough for a period of time, but in the end, we'll be better off. Bro, it's been tough for people. You're rich, fucking born with a silver spoon in your mouth. You have no idea what tough times are like. You've always been able to lie, cheat, and steal more money from people because of your last name. You have no idea that people are already struggling. They're already going through a tough time. You making it worse might make them lose everything they possibly have. And that's what's being lost here. And that's what the brilliance of someone like Donald Trump is. He has convinced so many average people that he, the wealthy, fucking born into money kid, is somehow in the dogfight with you. And that's the fucked part about this, and what's, I guess, frustrating for anybody who has their eyes open. And again, I don't even say this as somebody who is a expert on, you know, the economy and tariffs and all these things, but history has shown us what happens when you go into these things. The tariff war that we had led to the Depression. Like, we see what happens. The stock market was on its way to fucking just all out crashing. Like, pandemic lows. And there's no real plan in place. And he can't even explain what the actual fucking plan is. It's all like tough guy, macho, we're America bullshit. And it's like a dick measuring contest with these countries. And he just wants people to kiss the rings. And the scary part about something like China, a country like China, and I got this tidbit from an interview that was happening on I think it was Apple News today. They were talking about the idea of China bowing down to the U.S. is not a promising one, because they're an authoritarian country, a dictatorship that has to rest on the idea that their ruler, their person in charge, is the strongest person in the world, essentially, and bows down to no one. That's what authoritarianism essentially rests upon. And if he backs down to Donald Trump, he loses all credibility as the head honcho in charge, essentially. So it's the wrong country that you want to test when it comes to a potential trade war. And China's retaliating, and we get a lot of shit from China. You know, unfortunately, it looks like your Shein fucking pleather jacket that was once $6.99 after being assembled, you know, through slave labor, might go up to $30. You know, it's gonna be tough times for a lot of us. But it's just, I don't know, man. His own peoples are like, anybody with half a brain are kind of, as far as Republicans in Congress are kind of like, I don't know about this. They were having a public outcry. His own boy Elon Musk talks about he doesn't think tariffs are the right choice here. So it's just, and then he fucking has to backtrack because the idiot has no real plan. Time and time again, it's the same fucking pattern. Let me do something, it crashes and burns. Now I'm gonna backpedal and then like give it a PR spin to make it seem like I won this battle, right? Well, all these countries, you know, they've come back now and they're coming to the negotiating table, and you know, a lot of powerful people are bowing down, you know? That's like the type of bullshit he says. Oh, we won this war. It's fucking crazy, man. But yeah, that's where we are. 2025, baby. Only a couple months in. Now, on to some positive news. Let's talk about Latin music, and we'll do so in our Mi Gente segment. Mi Gente! All right, let's start with a record-breaking year for Latin music. 2024, last year, they're saying that Latin music grew to a record $1.4 billion industry. Now, according to WeAreMe2.com, Latin music is a growing genre and is taking up all of the space it rightfully deserves. For the third year in a row, the genre continues to grow and is outpacing overall music growth in the United States, which is absolutely crazy. Again, $1.4 billion in revenue for Latin music in 2024, which is a new record for the genre. Latin music has reached $1 billion in revenue for 3 years in a row, a 6% growth since 2024. Continuing that growth trend in 2024, like I said. This is a little slowdown compared to the 16% increase in 2023. However, the 6% growth surpasses the 3% growth for all music in the United States market. So Latin music is growing faster than any other genre. The broader year-end report from the RIAA paints a big picture of Latin music and how we consume it. According to the report, streaming is a major player in both revenue and how we listen to our favorite artists. In total, streaming made up 98% of total revenue generated for Latin music in 2024. Yeah, I'm not shocked. Actually, that's a lie. I was shocked that it was 2024. Because I felt like we were kind of on a down year in 2024. Because as a DJ, I kind of felt like, I know this, but pop music was like it. Like Charlie XCX, Sabrina Carpenter, Chappell Roan, even Billie Eilish. That as a DJ, that was like what I was always getting a hit up about, people wanting to play. That was always getting the best response. Obviously, Latin music still, and Bad Bunny in general, would hit. But it didn't feel like in years past. And this year, 2025, I felt like Latin music is bigger than ever. Like, I feel like it's like the go-to genre when I want to get the crowd back into it or something like that. And, that's on the heels of somebody like Bad Bunny dropping a banging album. But yeah, I think it's a beautiful thing to see. It's creating a lot of opportunities, a lot of industry. I don't have the number in front of me, but I saw something crazy like revenue that Bad Bunny's bringing to Puerto Rico, and it's just it's beautiful, and it's also being done in a more authentic way than ever before. I talk about this a lot and I harp on it, but it's an important detail to talk about the fact that they're doing it in their native language, right? And Bad Bunny's somebody we have to thank a lot for that. You know, he really is carrying the torch, and obviously a lot of other people are contributing, but I think we'd be lying to ourselves if we didn't say Bad Bunny wasn't sort of at the helm of this gigantic growth when it comes to Latin revenue. And it's beautiful, man. It's beautiful for me as a DJ, and you know, as an artiste myself, a beautiful moment for the community, the culture. I love that in the past, I can remember specifically a lot of places in New Jersey didn't want you to really play any Latin music, no reggaeton, hip hop as well. Now it's like they are forced; they can't get away from it, and I love it. It forces them to have to swallow their racism. So it's dope, man. I'm here for it. And piggybacking off of that, Bad Bunny just dropped the Tiny Desk performance on NPR, and in typical Bad Bunny fashion, he did it in such a Puerto Rican way, right? Because Bad Bunny didn't just stop at music. He spoke about Puerto Rican identity, colonization, what it means to represent the island that can't vote for U.S. president. Right? Puerto Ricans cannot vote for the president, he said, but we have to obey what the president orders. And he did it all in Spanish. He played for 5 songs, ended with La Mudanza, which he described as not a song, but something more. And somebody in the crowd screamed "Viva Puerto Rico Libre" or "Long live a free Puerto Rico." He echoed it, and that song, by the way, that's my favorite song. And like the way that it ends is like a crowd chanting part of like, "Yo soy de P fucking R," right? Like I'm from P fucking R, Puerto Rico, and it's just like this battle cry of pride, right? And I enjoyed it, and I think he did a little bit of the tirar más fotos. I think that's how he ended it officially. But this backlash to Bad Bunny's NPR Tiny Desk performance, like, if you had a problem with Bad Bunny's NPR Tiny Desk performance, you just don't get it. It wasn't for you. Because I saw people doing commentary like, he didn't play the hits. He was playing slow music, and it was very raw and rough. It's like, that's the point. This isn't about putting on a show for the masses. This is about putting on a protest for the people of Puerto Rico. This album is a musical protest for the most part. Yes, he sprinkled in the club records. Yes, he sprinkled in hits that you can sing along to, even if you're not from Puerto Rico or if you don't even speak Spanish, right? You can get it and enjoy it. That's the beauty of Bad Bunny. He mixes the medicine with the candy. But this performance, he could have given you a commercially viable performance on a huge platform like this one, but instead he said, with the world watching, I'm going to give you Puerto Rico. I'm going to give you a raw, unapologetic stance on where Puerto Rico is, what's happening on the island, and on top of that, I'm going to put on a performance that is riddled with so much Puerto Rican authenticity, from the instrumentation to the performers that were playing there. It was a moment for the people of Puerto Rico. And it's bigger than just providing you with entertainment. He chose to use his platform as a place to take a stance and as a place to put Puerto Rico on the big stage. And that's what's respectable about it. And that's why people like myself love it. And anybody who's critiquing it, you just don't get it. And it's not for you. This is deeper than reggaeton. This is deeper than club music. This is deeper than sing-along anthems. This is a statement. And that's exactly what he did here. And some of y'all just lack the, I don't know, ability to think a bit deeper than just pop music and understand that some people do things on a deeper level, and that's why we love Bad Bunny, and that's why this moment in time with this album and all that he's done since releasing it has been so special. That's what you're missing if you're hating. And I rest my case. Like, come on. And these are people, I'm not even critiquing, like, this was like somebody on the fucking radio was talking about this. And it's like, and I don't want to, I'm not taking stabs, but this is somebody from Los Angeles, not of Puerto Rican descent, of another descent. I don't know if they're Mexican. I don't want to assume, but obviously in LA, that's a huge population of the Latin diaspora over there, just as like Puerto Rican or Dominican is in New York. But they were complaining that, like, oh, he didn't play the hits. He didn't play the Movillol. He didn't do this. Bro, what? You don't get it. Like, you don't understand Bad Bunny on a deeper level. You don't understand artistry. They were complaining that he did the song Lo que pasó a Hawaii. Yeah, it's a slow song. It's a song about not wanting to see Puerto Rico as a colonized island lose its culture the same way Hawaii has. He chose to give you something of substance rather than other nonsense that you can hear by turning on the radio. He chose to use this moment where he knew millions of people would be watching to deliver a message to and for the people of Puerto Rico, on behalf of the people of Puerto Rico. That's bigger than any commercial moment. That's bigger than you having fun in the club. Like, stop. This is an important cultural moment. And that it was raw and felt a little loose and didn't feel like it was overly rehearsed. That's beautiful. You want to see a polished performance, go see him on tour. This was supposed to be a raw, stripped down version of his songs. And that's what we got. And as a fan, I love it. As somebody who is, always advocating for the people of Puerto Rico, I view it as an important moment in our story and an important moment of protest on behalf of the people of Puerto Rico. I'll leave it at that because I could do a whole hour on this. Yeah. Shout out to Bad Bunny. With that said, let's tie everything talked about today in a neat little bow in a segment we call Conclusion Stew.
Time for Conclusion Stew.
All right. I don't have much of a voice left. My chest hurts, so I'm going to make this really quick. We started talking about the tragedy in DR at the nightclub that the roof collapsed. There's nothing I can say to that. I can talk about what happened and that's it. It's heartbreaking. It's horrific tragedy. You think about all the lives lost. I think the only thing in this moment I can take away from it and offer is, like, those of us who have a chance to live another day, like, don't take it for granted. Every single moment. You never know, man. It's a reminder of that. It's a reminder that at any point in time, just like that, lights out. And this thing called life is precious. And there are a lot of people mourning loved ones right now. And my condolences and my heartfelt just sadness and I don't know. I'm just there with you mourning this because it's a tragedy. Moving on to everything with ICE and the IRS and all. It's just like, when you can't trust your government to be competent, things like this are probably not going to work out in our favor, are probably going to hurt more than they help. Again, when you talk about the fact that undocumented taxpayers contribute, what was it? It's multiple billions of dollars each year into our economy, into our country, as far as tax revenue goes, and obviously the money they spend in our economy. You're putting that potentially at risk for this sort of performative politics, and I don't know. And as we saw with the gentleman that was legally here and assumed to be a criminal and then was fucking deported as a result, you guys suck at your job, so I don't think you should be given any more, opportunity to fuck up people's lives, essentially. That's my take, and that leads perfectly into Donald Trump and this terror. It's just like, it's still wild to me, the fraud that Donald Trump is, and the inability of people to see it or think critically. And it's not even voter, it's literally like, I'm from New Jersey. I remember when he had hotels down here in Atlantic City. He bankrupted Atlantic City pretty much. The guy built this fucking monstrosity of a hotel that was not sustainable. You didn't have the type of clientele needed to keep it profitable and in business. And this asshole, with his delusions of grandeur, thinks that he knows more than everybody, and everybody else is just dumb and just bulldozes his way forward. And then the banks give him money because he's a fucking snake oil salesman, an expert marketer that knows how to bullshit. And then when they, when he lost that hotel was doing badly, he's going bankrupt, they still somehow gave him even more money to open more hotels. And the difference is, while, yeah, that fucked up the local economy and people down there in the city of Atlantic City, that's a far smaller scale than him fucking up the democracy we know as the United States of America. Because this guy doesn't think. He has an idea, he has an ego, and he's a narcissist, and is dumb enough to think that he can fucking do anything even if he has zero experience. And unfortunately, oftentimes with those types of people, because they're so good at talking the talk, they get so many fucking opportunities that they just shouldn't. And unfortunately, this is him doing that at the highest possible level and affecting the lives of so many of everyday people in this country, because he refuses to operate from a place of logic and actually trying to attack a problem or find a solution in a logical manner. He just blindly fucking tries shit, and then when it blows up in his face, he reels it back, puts a PR spin on it as to why it was a great success, and moves on to the next fucking debacle. And again, unfortunately, you're playing with people's lives at this point. That's what's so scary about it, and upsetting, if you will. On the positive side of things, Latin music, baby, taking over. It's here to stay. It's not a fad. It's only growing, which is absolutely incredible. I mean, I'm not a fucking expert here, but I would almost say 2024, again, felt like a down year because the Bad Bunny album wasn't a huge, like, commercial success that we were coming off of. It was like his trap album. 2025, this album feels bigger than anything he's ever done. People are loving it when I'm playing it out. I'm getting requests for it nonstop. I think this is going to be an even bigger year for Latin music. Alejandro put out a great album. There's just a lot. I think Karol G is probably expected to drop something this year, I believe. So there's just so many opportunities. And again, it opens the door for so much of our culture, right? Because when I'm in the club playing, it's not just Latin people requesting it. It's white people as well. And again, that opens the door for opportunities across various industries. It breaks cultural stereotypes. It breaks a lot of maybe mindsets. And maybe I'm thinking a little bit too deeply into it or too fucking, it ain't that deep. Maybe I'm a little too much optimism there, but I firmly do believe that. I think that things like this are a entry point. Entertainment, music is an entry point into far more acceptance of diversity and far more inclusion, if you will, even though DEI apparently is a bad word now to say, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then Bad Bunny, this Tiny Desk, performance. Listen, if you didn't get it, just say you didn't get it, and that's okay. Don't critique it. Like, understand that this is bigger than music. What he's doing now is bigger than music. This is legacy type of stuff. This is bigger than entertaining you. This is bigger than dancing in a club, bigger than giving you a catchy line to sing to, which he still managed to somehow do. but understand this project and the way he's moving right now is far bigger than just music. And if you want, fucking traditional, corny, play the fucking hits, then throw on Sabrina Carpenter, throw on whatever, who all have their place. But understand what this man is doing right now is far bigger than just being a icon as an artist, but moving into a space of trying to inspire and be the voice of a group of people who are marginalized and being taken advantage of right now. And that's what's special about this project, and everything he does should be viewed through that lens. Everything has a deeper meaning, and if you don't get it, just say that. You don't have to critique it. With that said, thank you all so much for tuning in. Financial Literacy Month still underway. We'll be back on Tuesday with a brand new episode. I think we're going to be talking about side hustles and gigs, the good, the positive. Latinos seem to be leading the revolution in side hustles and gigs, so we'll talk about that. But yeah, until then, have an amazing weekend. I'm hoping I'll be 100% by next episode. If not, just keep bearing with me. Fingers crossed. I'll talk to you next week. Till then, stay safe. We'll talk soon. Peace.